How you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
This is Rangru. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, we're in Division 3 for this particular league replay from Season 7. Rang, who do we have? Let's keep it simple today.
On the left-hand side in the blue, we have Finzent playing 17th SS with a Maverick income. And on the right-hand side in red, we have the Heavy Panzer Battalion 505. We're just going to call him 505. Playing as Group Viborg with a Maverick income.
So, we are in Shell, also. I forgot to mention that before. And the 505, it's kind of funny, because if you look at his tank tab, he does have a much heavier tank tab than what we saw on Tuesday. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, just the incorrect type of tanks.
True, true. But, you know, I think that if there were that many Tigers in the world at this point, they wouldn't be endangered. And in 1943, let me tell you, they were quite endangered. But opening, kind of standard opening over here. I mean, Shell is going to be one of those things that has knife fights in the forest, and then people start gaining some ground.
Yeah, we're seeing down south, Finzent is pushing pretty hard in the forest area. He definitely has the advantage in terms of infantry. He also has a lot of those nice light armoured cars to provide a decent amount of fire support. I think it's going to be a pretty uphill battle for 505. Tank divisions, especially in this map, don't really perform that well. So he's going to really have to make the most out of his kind of sporadic tank tab as it's all over the place.
That's true. But let's also not be unfair over here towards Viborg. The infantry, while they don't have as much of it, they're not slouches. They're just not the best of the best.
Yeah, he's definitely just going to need a good use of fire support with artillery and air power to really gain an edge.
Doubly so when you realize that he's fighting Volksdeutsche down south, and his Volksdeutsche by itself is doing a lot of work. And wow, there is very little down here to the south, as a couple of, what was that Sturmvikis that just got wrecked? Yeah, Sturmvikis that got wrecked. It's SS Legionarii, who's just, I think, is waiting for the 45mm to start to run before he chases after it. I'm not sure. I think he's just playing with his food.
It's sort of very effective push here from Finzent. Also just capturing, not fully pushing like the southern central hill position, the T-34s are going to hold onto the flag, but he does hold that town, which is a really good staging point, so to speak, for eventually either pushing up north or trying to push onto that flag where the T-34s are.
I will say he did just kind of donate a Martyr 3 for very little gain down on the southern side. And I feel like we're going to see a flag or two change hands to the north, as well as a Flemmenwerfer is trying to fight about 2 platoons, and that, you know, has a predictable result on that north-central hilltop.
Yeah, it's a really good push here from 505. If he can clear this out with his Sturmvikis, if he just puts some of those heavy tanks on the hill, he's going to have a very good firing line to hold on to said hill.
Now, we did see an early hurricane. Is that what Viborg has to do to overcome its deficiencies, not so much in the tank tab itself, but in this kind of divisional setup?
Yeah, he's gonna really need to use the air power effectively, because air power is pretty good in Shell. Same with artillery, just because the more indirect fire support works well when trying to blow up people behind and inside a forest. Here we are seeing in the southern central positions getting a bit hot at Martyr 3, managing to kill one T-34, but he goes down.
Yeah, given his life as is, you know, as it says in the tin, he is a martyr, that's for sure. Now, BA-10s, we saw a lot of scout-type vehicles over here on Tuesday. We see a couple more of them over here today with a 17th SS. BA-10, we haven't seen a BA-10 rush in a while, and I kind of ask myself why that is the case. Is it just an availability sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's just availability. They're not super duper common in divisions, but they are pretty good, especially against Finzent, because that 45mm gun does mean they trade somewhat effectively compared to the autocannons, especially at longer range.
Mm-hmm. Well, and listen to this hurricane. He might get, yeah, he forces a fallback, but I don't know if he might necessarily make it out alive.
It's taking some heavy firepower, seen all the way down south as well. 505 is trying to get a foothold back into the southern position, but he just does not have a fly support. He's making a bit more better headway in the southern central position with all the BA-10s, but that town is heavily littered with Germans.
Well, there's a stroke over here as well, so you kind of engage things like that T-34-76 Camerati. And the Camerati technically can kill, that's for sure. But when you keep bouncing like that, that's not, this isn't some hip-hop track, man. We gotta make sure we, hippity hop out of there.
Yup, it's gonna be very hard dealing with that Strike 4 until we get some more heavier anti-tank options available to him. Which really, in A phase, I mean, it's the single IS-2 Camerati, or some ZIS-2 guns which he has available to him.
So there's potential, just not a huge amount of it.
Yup. But so far, I mean, Finzent does have a pretty good momentum. He's clearing up the forces down south. I think his Hurricane is going to have something to say about it. Yeah, southern position just does not look good for 505. I feel like he needs to try and push somewhere in the northern region of the map. Just try to divert some of the pressure from the south.
True, but I don't know that he's going to get that chance as more Volksdeutsche get brought on in with another P-Gun kind of in loose support. And why not? I mean, he's got not the greatest of controls. As you can see, another SPW being donated over here to the 505. But he's got potential.
Yep.
Huge potential? No, but potential nonetheless.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, this is a very good map for Finzent in general. The autocannons growl in and around the forest. He has really good CQC troops. He has a good amount of anti-tank guns available, as well as decent amount of tank destroyers for more longer range defense. I feel like it's going to be pretty tough for 505, especially considering Finzent's, pretty good opener, just capturing the southern flank.
True, and let's not forget the fact that there happened another martyr being part into the central position. In that rather hefty push, BA-10s, T-34-76s, there's an officer and everything like that. Nope, not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, but it's really just these small skirmishes in the southern side is where all the action is. We're barely seeing anything happen up north apart from the initial Sturmoviki push. And that's a pretty heavy investment in Sturmovikis, which, I mean, they've cleared the forests, but they're not really doing anything proactive right now, which is a bit of a shame. He really needs some good infantry down south to try and force Finzent out of this position.
Well, there's going to be a small but significant pickup over here in the central positions as this too actually does go down.
Pretty good kill, because, yeah, there's only 3 of them in the deck in general. He still has a lot of heavy tanks, which is decent, but, anti-tank guns are always nice.
And this is still an A-B game. This is not the kind of game you want to be playing unless you have super late game ZIS-2s. Yes, you can outlast the 17th SS, but not when you're running a Maverick deck.
I mean, Finzent's going to outlast in terms of infantry, but 505 will outlast in, well, he will be able to outlast in terms of tanks, but, I mean, Finzent does have those Jagdpanzers available, and a decent amount of Stugs, so it's going to be a bit difficult.
And those are gun pod Ju-87s, I see. Not that it's going to do a lot of damage immediately. Again, those gun pods are not the best against heavy tanks, but you can't get an awful lot of stress. And if you chip enough paint, there might be potential for something.
Yep. We're seeing Finzent make a pretty good push in the southern central position, managing to capture that flag. He has some Arda 3 in the Stug, providing a decent amount of fire support, catching the infantry out in the open. So, I mean, he really doesn't need to push anymore down south. I mean, he could try and go for the flag by the crossroad at the edge of the hill, but that's a pretty tall ask. I think trying to push somewhere out north would be a better use of his resources for Finzent.
Well, and the martyr going down courtesy of that Hurricane. So unfortunately, he failed to batten down his hatches. But wait a second, there's a P-Gun got himself inserted behind the Sturmovikis. He's going to go down. But that was a really strange position. I'm surprised the Soviets weren't able to take him under... Oh, never mind.
It's a 2-3 run, who is rightfully going to back out of that situation.
Yes, indeed.
IL-2 try and do some strafing runs, but the Flak 38 are on point and will be enough to force them back. Really get the kill?
I don't think so. I feel like the Scout has an awful lot of resilience. I don't know why that is. Of course, watch Castor's Curse kick in. Nope, he makes it out. Okay. However, it is starting to hurt my heart a little bit. If you look to the southern side, another Opal Blitz going down, and indeed, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different vehicles have been donated.
Oh, wow.
It's just to a BA-10 and a 45 mil. Like, we're not talking about some crazy, crazy firepower. It's just kind of standard stuff, really.
Yeah, and that's definitely what 505 needs down south here. That's definitely relieved some of the pressure from those heavy fire support units coming up. As he's been able to hold on to what's left of the far south with, yeah, just 4 units right now. It's nothing really all that scary.
Which is weird, because those 4 units would be, you know, twice as many as he had in the first 3 minutes, and then something clicked in. I don't know what it was.
But yeah, we're now into B phase. I mean, it's a 12-12, but in terms of Maverick on Maverick, it's still those first 20 minutes are very important, because it's hard to do offensive operations when you only get 80 points a tick. So Finzent, even if he doesn't make any more crazy aggressive moves, he's still in a good position to just maybe capture one more flag and just get that +1.
It certainly seems to be the case, doesn't it? That will at least be, of course, I mean, obviously you always want more flags than your opponent, but definitely has like, some good possibilities there.
We're seeing some investment up north here from Finzent, bringing in a decent amount of Legionaries. Actually going to be bringing them onto the hill, so that'll be a really good counter against the Sturmovikis, and he might be able to actually get a foothold onto the hill.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if he's at that Volksdeutsche right there, so that way someone's there to take hits in the beginning. Which would be a shame, but regardless, one of those things I think that is worth checking further into.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same for the Volksdeutsche, but not for the other guys.
True. I am surprised that we haven't seen any investment to BF-109. This has been a kind of a trend for the Luftwaffe this week. Apparently they're on a very low stand-down operations, kind of more like a rest and refit kind of cycle. I don't know what it is, but they've been very, very meager in their approaches.
Oh, to be fair, it is 1944. They're probably a little bit scared.
The Romanians are fine. The Romanians keep having dudes show up. Like,
they're just happy to have an aircraft.
True, and they equip themselves well. 45 mil down to the south. Okay, yeah, this thing. I know theoretically it really shouldn't be killing consistently, and it doesn't in this particular case either. But that 100 armor pen value always has me wondering. Like, it's got potential.
Yeah, it's a small chance. With how archaic, not archaic, but convoluted SC2's penetration system is, there is a small chance, yeah, 45 mil can pen the start. Go do some good critical hits.
There are moments when I do miss the days of, he has an armor pen value of 10. I have an armor value of 9. He can kill me. That always made a lot of sense to me.
Yes, I'm happy I brought that back with Warno. Heck, you couldn't really do the realistic armor penetration system in Warno because no one really knows the realistic armor or penetration values of modern day tanks. I mean, if you do find out, it's kind of classified information. You can get in serious trouble for leaking it.
That right there, folks, is some of art imitating life. Rang's referring to a case in which he had a class project when he was in about the grade 11 or so.
Yeah, it was grade 11, yeah.
Yeah. He made a bit of a mistake. Let's just say Wikipedia was not his best friend that day, and there was a very, very awkward call from the Canadian Defense Ministry.
Yeah. They don't like you leaking blueprints of certain locations, apparently. You would have thought I was just recreating it in Minecraft.
I was gonna say, that's what War Thunder is for. 152 to the... yeah, that was a slower one there. 152 off map, hitting that northern town, and doing a good job with it. Like, well done, sir. Unfortunately, I think a lot of his artillery is dropping just too far from where it would have been necessarily ideal. But regardless, 152 Ooh, and an IS-2 Comrati, which you did not see until just now. That is going to be hard.
That's a lot of that's a lot of firepower, but it's going to be about just a good use of that IS-2. You can blow up pretty much all of the tanks, which Finzent does have, but it's going to be tough. I mean, 505, he can make a push up and up north. It's really his best bet. It's more open ground. He can use those tanks, but it's really just about time. He really only has another 5 minutes or so of good income before it's going to be pretty hard to justify investing in heavy tanks. And as a more infantry-focused division, it's not too bad being in C-Phase Maverick, because you're really just buying infantry. But for a heavier tank division, it gets pretty difficult, because it's like only one tank every 2 minutes.
True. True. Nope.
You know, a lot of Hurricanes.
Ooh, and a PE-2. Did he get the bombs off? He didn't get the bombs off. Fascinating. Another artillery strike 152 coming in again just to the west of what the first one was. Not sure I really agree with this one either. IS-2. Ooh, wow. The 81mm take out that... Yeah. SU-76 goes down to a stovepipe. What I was going to say, though, is instead of taking the IS-2, would it not have just been better just to bring in most of his card of KV-1s?
Yeah. Yeah, he really just needs fire support at this point compared to a heavy fire support unit. I mean, the IS-2 is going to be nice dealing with lots of tanks, but as you can see, well, apart from the Jagdpanzer being brought out right now, there's not a whole lot of armor he does have to worry about. He just needs fire support to back up his strokies.
Well, and what's more, too, I mean, we have 4 Churchills over here in the center. Regrettably, there's also a guy coming down that road that they cannot pen, statistically.
Yeah, those Churchills might be able to do somewhat decent. And there's a lot of them. But he needs to kind of engage all of them instead of one at a time. That's a bit of a missed micro play.
Yeah, and the stroke's going to go down, that's for sure.
He side armor.
Jagdpanzer, though.
Oh yeah. Jagdpanzer does not mess about.
Now, looking other side, and while we were looking away, that southern flank is completely cleaned up. Completely cleaned up. The Legionary, yes, they're holding the lines. They're probably not going to take that flag to the north unless there's a very, very ill-considered attack. But what had been, what I argue, a rather dire situation, far less so now, that's for sure.
Yeah, Finzent is doing some really good, aggressive plays here. That small little defense force was doing decent, but when an actual, when Finzent actually invested quite heavily into some infantry, he, managed to clear it out. It'd be interesting to see if he does try to push that one flag. There's not a whole lot yet to stop him, but at the same time, he's in a pretty good stopping point. He doesn't need to really push up anymore.
Well, I do like this Jagdpanzer trying to go through the trees, and I'm kind of wondering if he's going to be able to see and engage those Churchills before, yes, he can. And they're all side on to him. This is going to get bloody real quick.
Takes some raw to aim. One goes down.
He still might get the second before the next one gets a round off. Okay, so I got a round off, but there's still only one that's engaging him. Armor class.
6-pounder.
No, what?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. SD2 armor mechanics.
And once again, folks, I repeat, I miss the days when...
The numbers are too big and the calculations are too obscure. Oh, up north we got 2 pioneers managing to make a bit of a donut hole in 505's lines. In a pretty decent position. If you can get one of them into the barns, just be a good little guerrilla warfare location. But we are seeing 505 invest quite heavily up north now. But this is really his last of this B phase income. So it's going to be harder to keep up with these offensive operations.
Yeah, and the IS-2 is engaging a 222, which is kind of like having a pit bull go after a chihuahua.
Yep.
You're, let's say going clubbing seals.
That's my favourite pastime. I'll be doing some tomorrow night. Do you want to come?
I would, but usually I just blubber about at that point. So, disclaimer: please do not demonetize our videos because of a throwaway joke. Pack 40 to the north, probably going to engage a couple T-34s coming down the road. And like you said, it is 1410, so there is potential to be seeing some actual kills happen. But now we have the 37 mil with the Ju-87 coming side on to the IS-2, and if this IS-2 goes down, like that is just a bad kill. And that's a bad kill.
That's exactly what happens. The curse of being a heavy tank in Steel Division 2. The aircraft will always come in and kill you.
Well, and it's one of those things that, you know, it's great to have, you take out the Ju-87, that's fantastic, but who cares? The Ju-87 just traded effectively, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was definitely a rough road kill, yeah, for Finzent. Racine 505 makes some pretty good, I say he's making decent headway up north, but Pack 40 is going to have, the two Pack 40s actually, are going to have something to say about, yeah, the Panzer Grenadiers coming in to hold the line, and yeah, it's really going to be the end of that northern push.
And the hill's gone down as well. I mean, the Sturmoviki is still there. And there's a Legionary out in the open who's taking some firepower. But going back to Strelki, when you have a fanatical trait, who cares? Yeah, congratulations, you're wasting ammunition on me. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and just the regular Strelkies aren't really that great. Same with a lot of infantry, which only have a single LMG. You really want to try to get Trin LMGs on the infantry as much as possible, because those Strelkies are really only good for just drawing fire at this point, or throwing an anti-tank grenade.
Well, and while we have been watching all of this material getting thrown into the northern flank, look to the south. We have several fingers, or at least that's how I'm going to interpret it, because this is still potentially a family video, being thrust very, very deep into the Soviet lines. And the Southern Hill? Well, that Southern Hill, which before had such a hotbed of contestation, nah, man, it's just blue now. Just completely blue.
Yep. There's still just that one sliver of hope here for 505. Still holding the crossroad, but, I mean, the Finzent was supposed to pretty easily clear that out.
Exactly. Exactly. A second 152 has been brought on in. I think that's the extent. Yep, that's the extent of his artillery support more than anything else. And yeah, he might be able to kill, but who really much cares? Congratulations, you have a T-34 that's rather overextended. Pack 38s and Pack 40s. Pack 40 is going to go down almost guaranteed from the 152.
Yeah. And just like, you know, he's not going to be able to follow up at artillery barrage, yeah. Which means that you're not going to get too much. Okay, he's actually going to try to do it with the T-34, but it's not going to work out all that well for him.
No.
The KV-1s are a little bit slower. You really want, you know, some infantry to come in, like Strelkies, for example, to mop up the mess. And, you know, pick up the pieces of the Panzer Grenadiers, which have been spread around the battlefield.
That's called manure, sir. That's just fertilizer, really. But Scout IL-2 coming around, getting some eyes on basically stuff that he's just been there for quite a bit of time. And between the Stug and the Pack 38, there should be a dead team. Yep.
Your 505 is still holding on to the hill somewhat effectively. He's dug into the forest in Finzent's tanks. Aren't going to do too much, but that Ronjag Panzer, lovely position on the hill to cover the road. Kills assist too.
Oh, I haven't even been watching that. I was watching the double Pack 38s being brought on in to blow apart the Lee Churchill, bring it back to a 1410. As other Churchill, I think, is going to just kind of continue to dither on forwards and will meet a rather bloody end if he's not careful. And I don't think he's very careful.
Yeah, 505, I mean, he's playing it, you know, like the heavy tank battalion. He's just sending in the heavy tanks. Not Tigers, unfortunately, for him. And they are paying the price because of it.
Well, in that case, he has been kind of aping the 505 of history. In that those heavy tanks, they need that support. And I don't know if he's been really giving them what they're due.
Yeah, it's also just a lack of infantry, like with those last two pushes with those tanks up north and down south, he hasn't had enough adequate infantry support. But at the same time, I kind of get it. He doesn't have a whole... That's one of the real problems with Viborg. You don't have a whole lot of infantry, and the infantry is just meh. I mean, Sturmovic's nice, but everything else is pretty mediocre. And in meta, which is a very infantry-focused, you get screwed over, especially on a very infantry-focused map such as Shell.
True. True. I know, we said it before, I'm going to say it again. I really would prefer to have not seen the super heavy tanks, necessarily. You don't need an HBT when you're fighting Stugs. Just bring in several KV-1s. Just bring in several Churchills to concentrate. I feel like, unless you know you're going up against a heavy tank division, it's better just to replace the IS-2 with something else. Even the IS-2 Camarati, I don't think that's worth the single slot that it takes.
Yeah, especially on a map like this. It's just due to how most of the time you're really just using tanks as fire support, it's better to hedge the cost by having 2 to 3 medium tanks to your 1 heavy or super heavy tank. And we're seeing the IS-2 here. He's going to be able to tank a lot of firepower, but all it takes is one Ju-87 or, you know, a good bombing run to end the IS-2's career.
Yes, indeed. And if it was faster, I think I'd be much more sanguine about it. But here's the Ju-87.
Really get the kill. He's not going to get the ability to shine shot, and the IS-2 is backing out.
Watch him accidentally kill some Watamachikis. Okay. Falling back. Bounce the entire time. Okay. The Panther, in the meantime, he's going to see an awful lot of infantry kind of crawling towards him, engaging the Strokies at a distance. Watamachikis, I mean, we've talked about these guys before, obviously, and they don't do very well when you leave them in trucks.
Yeah. Gary, I did like, it was a risky maneuver, but it is going to pay off for him as he manages to run loads just underneath the Jagdpanzers. But Finzent does have good covering arcs of fire, and those Watamachikis aren't going to get caught out in the open, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I did like that play quite a bit.
Yeah, so did I.
Oh, Hurricane coming in.
Yeah, and he's going to get the kill. If it's not the Hurricane, there's also the PE-2s making bombing runs. There's another IL-2 coming around, so not too surprising there.
Maybe not. No, the Hurricane's going to get stressed out. There's no real anti-air here for the Heavy Panzer Battalion, so that's going to hurt him quite a bit.
You say that, and immediately there's a couple 25 mils being brought on in.
Caster's cursed, right, yeah? And, oh,
yep.
There we go.
Yeah, and deservedly so. I mean, the Ju-87 is, again, guys, it's radically out of date at this point already, so.
Yeah, you kind of want to be getting... You don't want that thing lingering over the battlefield. It does its one attack, and then you bugger off.
Yep. Yep. Unless you have truly complete airspace dominance, at which point, yeah, you have fun, but until then.
Oh. Yeah, I think we can take us to a times 2. It's pretty clear who's going to win here.
Okay, at 20, and times 2. And that's kind of the name of the game, isn't it? That the Finzent over here, I think, was able to counter the early push and just draw that game out.
Yeah, it's just, he definitely picked the better division for the better map. That was one of the main reasons he did win the match, but I think 505 never really managed to secure good momentum. He definitely had opportunities up north to make something happen. Like, he managed to capture that hill very early on, but he didn't manage to exploit it. He could have really pushed heavy up north, bringing some KV-1s, Churchills, throwing some Strokies to lead the charge, and he could have made some decent progress, yeah, but I think Finzent's southern hill push was definitely more effective. And wow, that's actually really close on KD. I felt like Finzent was really blapping him that match, but no, that was not the case.
Well, and that was kind of the thing, too. But I think what was happening here is that, yeah, we see a lot of martyrs going down. We see that the BA-10 kind of really punching above his weight. Well done to you, sir. With Tormanov over here. And I think some of the airplane kills probably also made it sound a lot closer than it was. But when it comes right down to it, a lot of the heavier material just was not worth the cost that it required, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I do quite like the Steel Division games because you have if you look at his KD ratio, you think, oh wow, it's a really close match, but it wasn't really. It was very, Finzent clearly won the match, especially early on, which really goes to show out just it's not about the kills. It's all about the positioning. It's how you gain that momentum. It's such a important concept in these Eugene in any RTS game. It's
Mhm.
never really. I mean, it's something you can't really explain. It's just a sixth sense, so to speak, a sixth sense for tactical and strategic victory.
He says that, but the other important thing when you have a sixth sense is that you see dead people, and we saw a lot of those
Oh
today.
yes, there was. There's always a lot of dead people in these matches. It's quite sad, really.
It
Why
is.
can't they
It is.
just make up?
Well, I prefer to think of it this way: is that we are memorializing their last heroic actions in film for all eternity. We are the documentarians of this modern, digital Second World War, and I take that duty proudly, my friend. But you know
Hmm.
what? That's a maybe a theoretical question for another time. For right now, though, well done, Vincent. Better luck next time they're 505. And any last words, sir?
No.
Well, folks, in that case, then we're going to call it quits for today. Until next time, I'm Con Olberg.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.